Depending on who you listen to, the Hamilton housing market is either crashing or it's bouncing back. The truth is, it's somewhere in between, and it's a little more nuanced than the headlines might give. And now that the April 2026 numbers are in for Hamilton and surrounding area, honestly, they're a bit more interesting. The market's not crashing, it's not booming by any means, but depending on where you're buying or selling and what you're buying or selling, the story can be very different. Let's break it all down. Taking a look at the big picture, here's the snapshot for Hamilton across all property types. There were 506 homes sold, which is down 5.5% from the same time last year in April 2025. With 1,300 new listings that came onto the market, that's down as well, 4%. So less people are selling, less homes are being listed, even though spring tends to be that time when listings flood to market. So it looks like buyers are still being hesitant. Sellers are also still being hesitant. Spring market, things have picked up a little bit. I can tell you on the ground that that's happening, but not necessarily like we're used to. Average sale price currently, this is again across all property types, $777,000, almost $778,000. But again, that is including, Ancaster, Dundas, Stony Creek, all these surrounding areas. So that brings that average price up a lot, especially now more than ever. You can get a starter home in the $400,000 or $500,000, no problem. So for first-time home buyers, don't let that $778,000 average price scare you off. There's definitely many options out there. Feel free to reach out if you're looking to look at your options. Median sale price, $700,000. So that's down as well, 3.5%. The median gives you the kind of average typical home and the average set of features. But again, across all property types in the different markets throughout Hamilton, where there's a lot of nuances between neighborhoods and areas. Days on market, this is the number of days that it takes for homes that sell, 36 days. That's up 9% from last year. So homes are sitting longer on the market. 36 days isn't too bad, but you will notice there are a ton of homes that are overpriced that are sitting on the market 100, 200, 300 days at this point, because those sellers are just being stubborn and not realizing that, the market is telling them that their home is not worth what they're pricing it for, and they will continue to sit on the market. Months of supply is at 4.6. And what that tells you is if all the homes were to sell, nothing else to come on the market, it would take 4.6 months for those homes to completely sell out. So that number technically tells us we're in a balanced market, even though we know we're not on the ground. It's definitely a buyer's market, but there aren't that many buyers. So, do with that what you will. Sellers are still getting 97.3% of their list price. So homes are selling at, just over 97% of what they're being listed for, other than all those homes that are sitting well overpriced that I mentioned. On the surface, you're looking at a market where sales are down, prices are slightly lower than last year, and homes are taking a few more days to sell. And it sounds negative, but what's actually happening, we'll dig a little deeper into, because it's kind of a calm, balanced market that's happening out there, contrary to what the headlines might say. So the most important thing to understand is that the single family homes and condos or townhomes are telling completely different stories. Single family homes, we had 359 sales, essentially flat compared to last year, up less than 1%. The average price for single families is $860,000. That's down 2.5% from last year. Again, includes all those surrounding areas, so you can definitely get single families for less than $860,000. Days on market 33, so close to the average, a little less. Months of supply 4.1. Single family is holding up, demand is there, and prices are staying fairly stable. Where condos and townhomes, we had 139 sales, down 22% from April last year. Average price of condos and townhomes of $581,000. That's down almost 7%. So obviously you see a bigger drop in prices in that segment of the market. Days on market 41. So they're taking a bit longer to sell. Prices are down. Months of supply almost 6. That's a big difference there. So you can see that detached homes, which is a big reason people move to Hamilton is to be able to get that detached home. And a lot of first-time home buyers are able to get into the market here. So condos and townhomes are not, it's a smaller segment of the market. So take them with a grain of salt that there's less action happening there. It is under pressure though. More supply, slower sales, prices have dropped much more noticeably. This split matters a lot depending on what you're trying to do. If you'd like to discuss your personal situation, feel free to send me a DM, or you can book a call in the link below. But let's take a look at really what's driving things in the market right now. There's a couple things that are shaping the market right now. On the positive side, affordability is actually starting to improve. The Housing Affordability Index for Hamilton is up about 9% year over year, which is good news. What that means is it's getting a bit easier for a typical household income to qualify for a typically priced home here than it was last year, even though it may not feel like it with the expense of groceries and everything going up. People are actually being closer to being able to qualify this year than they would have been last year. And that matters for buyers who would have been stretched thin, because that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to be house poor. So something you want to avoid. On the challenging side, though, there's macro uncertainty. Of course, we all feel it. We all know that this has continued. We thought nothing could hit us like it did last year. And then, they stepped it up. Korea noted that nationally sales have slipped slightly in April, partially because of global economic uncertainty and a mid-month rise in fixed mortgage rates driven by higher inflation expectations. Hamilton is not immune to that by any means. When buyers get nervous about where rates are going, some of them pump the brakes. The truth is, fixed rates seem to be maintaining pretty steady right now, right? So when you see the headlines about the Bank of Canada changing or not changing interest rates, they held recently, which they've done the last couple times. Those affect variable rate mortgages, not fixed rate mortgages, which is likely what you would get if you were to get a mortgage. So that being said, inventory is actually slightly lower than it was a year ago, down about 4%. So the story isn't too much supply flooding the market. It's more about buyer confidence. And that's kind of been the story over the last year. For buyers, you have real negotiating room. You have had it. So, now's your time to shine, particularly in the condo and townhouse market, which is obviously more affordable. So first-time home buyers have that opportunity there. Almost 6 months of supply for that segment means that sellers know that they are competing. There is no urgency working against you as a buyer, and you can take your time, negotiate properly. Whereas single families, there's less leverage. Supply is a bit tighter at 4 months, and demand is still there. So you're not going to be in a bidding war by any means, but you can't just lowball a house and expect to get your dream home for half the price. Affordability is improving. Like I said, inventory is slightly down from last year, meaning the choices have narrowed, right? And they will continue into the end of the spring and into the summer, where less people generally list, and we've seen less people listing even in the spring. So if you have been sitting on the fence, the conditions right now are pretty good for you. You can take your time and see what's out there, and they may not get dramatically better anytime soon. And for sellers, listen, if you're a single detached family home owner and you're priced right, you're good. You'll sell. It has to be right though. You have to really pay attention to what's selling and price according to the market that we're moving towards. Not even looking back at comps 3-4 months ago, you can't use those anymore. We have to look forward. Pricing properly is of utmost importance. Demand is stable. You're averaging 33 days to sell if you're priced right. And you're getting close, 97% of your list price. So just to set those expectations. It's not a bad place to be in. If you need to sell, this is your time to do so. Price it correctly, present it properly, and you'll move it. If you're a condo or townhouse owner, you need to have a real conversation with your agent about pricing strategy, as the sales are down 22% in that segment. There are more sellers than buyers right now. So overpricing will cost you. Either way, the one thing is to be consistent across the board, is that accurately priced homes sell.